You are listening to Nerd Best Friends, a podcast that covers the nerdy conversations you're already having, or wish you could. It's the nerdiest thing you'll do this week.
This is Analese.
This is Rob.
And we are your nerd best friends.
Before there was Reno 911, before there was Wet Hot American Summer, there was The State. And we're still quoting it 30 years later.
This is Nerd Best Friends, where we celebrate the conversations you're already having or wish you were. We're your nerdy companions on a quest through cosplay, comics, D&D, pop culture chaos, and all things wonderfully weird. If you're loving the ride, hit subscribe, follow, or share this episode with your fellow nerds, because the algorithm needs a little nudge from the nerd herd. Let's make Season 5 our nerdiest adventure yet. This is episode 73, and this past June, a documentary premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival called Long Live the State, and it featured the rise and fall of one of our favorite sketch comedy television shows, The State. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing great. And the thing that it makes me do so great is that we're talking about The State. I watched a bunch of YouTube clips to kind of like refresh my memory. And here's what was interesting about it was I was like, is this going to hold up? It's 30 years old and it was a different time and it's sketch comedy. Like we think about comedy improv troupes now, they're almost laughable because they got so popular for a while. And they're like, I don't know, what if this episode turns into like, this stuff doesn't really hold it? No, it's still funny as hell. Like I laughed out loud. I was just like, I was in the car waiting. I had to pick up my son for something. Of course, he didn't come out on time. So I'm like, oh, this is a good chance for me to like go through and watch some State. Laugh out loud by myself in the car. Funny. It's still so good. So this is going to be great.
Yeah. So I have something for you, Rob. See what I got here? Got him.
It's pudding.
Do you know what it says?
Does it say? What does it say?
What does it say? It says cook and then chill. And baby, that's what I do every night. I cook and chill. Okay, so that was a joke. I held up a box of pudding for those of you who don't end up seeing that probably clip that'll come up on social media. If you didn't see it, I held up a box of pudding and there's a reason for it. So let's talk first real quick about comedy sketch shows. There's a lot of them. Right? You have Saturday Night Live, you have Kids in the Hall, you have In Living Color was right in that Gen X medium as well. You had Mad TV, which was based on, like, we've talked about these sketch comedy shows, but The State was different. And it was different for a few reasons. And it's going to be real interesting. I'm jumping right into the topic, but we have something else to do before we continue with The State, which I'm super excited to talk about as well. You know, we've done a series. We've featured a series every season of Nerd Best Friends. We've been pretty much all Joss Whedon or sci-fi. So we did Buffy season 1. We did Firefly season 2. Yeah. We did Quantum Leap season 3. And then last season we did Dollhouse. And so I'm excited to delve into this show for our nerd series this year.
Interesting. I didn't really get that connection, but you're right. And it makes sense because remember, like NBF heads, the real lore knows that originally this was supposed to be a Buffy the Vampire Slayer
right podcast. Exactly. Yes. And we've kind of stuck around that realm. And also, you know, our show is also based off of the two of us being knuckleheads since we were 14 years old. This was something we were like Adam Sandler movies. This was something we quoted all the time, not only with each other, but with our friends. I mean, it is pure Gen X in the middle of the 90s comedy.
It's funny because like one of my favorite sketch, and we'll get into it, is that pudding sketch. And like we could probably quote every word, and we used to all the time. But watching through, like as I was going through YouTube and trying to find sketches, I didn't look anything up purposefully. I just kind of let it feed me. That sketch never came up.
It's
like,
wild.
I haven't seen that thing in 20 years. It's just not there. But I know it by heart because we all sat there and watched it so many times. It was a beanbag chair
covered in goop to make it look like pudding.
But anyway, we'll get to
We had the $240. See, you know exactly what it looks like and sounds like, and having not watched it in 30 years. But before we get to that, let's get to Talk Nerdy to Me. All right, today's Talk Nerdy to me is really just, we're at the start of season 2. We've had a summer. We've talked about nerdy things. But Rob, other than the D&D campaigns you and I are individually or together involved in, what game is on your table right now?
Right now is Fantastic Four. So the Fantastic Four movie came out back in August. It was incredible.
Good movie.
Absolutely over the moon for this movie. They finally got it right. And it turns out it didn't take all that much to fix all the problems all of those Fantastic Four movies have been having. It was like, hey, you know where Fantastic Four works best? In like the retrofuturism of the 60s where it came out. Hey, you know what makes Fantastic Four work best? If they're actually all scientists who went to space and not dumbass. It's like, it's so good.
Follow the source material. Don't try to adapt it for now. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Like, I just think back to their like, anyway.
Keep it
There's
simple,
no reason
stupid.
why Chris Evans, the underwear model, super vapid dumb, would have gone on a spaceship as a scientist to get blasted by cosmic rays. They fixed it all. It's so good. But anyway, years and years ago, there used to be this company called Simon Games. It said for Cool Mini or Not. And they had
Are they gone for sure? Like,
no,
for real?
I don't think they're gone, but
they're
I don't
not
think they're
doing
gone.
it.
They'll come back, but
yeah.
Boys, their heyday. Like we're at 15:01 of their 15 minutes of absolute printing money fame.
Owning the gaming universe and Kickstarter.
Right.
For sure.
So, but 5 years ago when they were everything, we went all in on the Marvel United miniatures game. It's super cool. Tons and tons of like chibi style models. They're beautiful. My wife Maria painted everything, but there's still, we probably have 10 boxes still in the shrink wrap of expansions, but Fantastic Four was coming out and it was like, what a great excuse. Like, we're all hopped up on Fantastic Four. Let's paint the Fantastic Four boxes. So she pulled that out and she's been painting the characters. It's perfect because that game is a 4-player game, but we've been adding a 5th player. There's rules for like, if you add a 5th player, just put in 2 more complication cards and you're cool. So you get the Fantastic Four and the Silver Surfer. So we can play 5-player games if we really want to max it out. It's got 2 villains in it. It's got the Super Scroll and it's got Dr. Doom. And it's such a fun game. And it was such a good excuse to be like, Fantastic Four, how fun. Maria did a great job painting them. And now we're going around the circle with our Fantastic Four on Marvel United.
That's fantastic. That's just such a good game. I remember even when I was still living in town, having Andrew come over and we just like played that game for hours and had some Rusty's Pizza. Like, such a good game. And no two games are alike. It's so well done.
There is some magical nerd put together a campaign map, like this gigantic flowchart. And when I say gigantic, I mean gigantic, of how to set up a campaign where you play with every character.
If you bought into all of it.
Yes, if you are an all-in person and you have all 408 of these minis or whatever it is, this is how you could do a progression and play with every character. And I think it's got like unlocks and branching trees and loop backs. It is insanely cool.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah,
I'll have to find that link. Send it to Dr. Intern Joan to put on our show notes.
We'll do.
Yeah. Well, it should be no surprise on my table right now, but there's a backstory to it. It's Final Girl. I'm back in the Final Girl train.
You are?
And that also tends to happen in the fall because Halloween's coming around and I like to play around Halloween. But in this case, what happened when we got back to school and I started seeing my staff again, one of the teachers on my campus, a couple of teachers on my campus were game testers, and I'm going to forget the name of the game. I'll get it. I'll blast it out. But they were game testers and they went to Gen Con right before we reported back to school. And I'm like,
someday.
I had like a 20-minute conversation with one and just tell me about Gen Con because I really want to go at least once. And it looks super intimidating to have to like jump on and reserve spots. And so they talked me through some of my questions there. And then I said, if I had put 2 and 2 together, I would have asked if either of you had a chance to go by Van Ryder Games. And Van Ryder Games has a whole like building to themselves.
Oh, okay.
And they are really hinging on Final Girl. They said they had people in cosplay around Gen Con as the villains in Final Girl, which is super smart because they've now released the Scream-based version, the Teenage Murderer version, which is set at a con. And all the little minis are people in cosplay as some of their characters from Series 1 and Series 2. Like, it is genius, right? The meta is so big. And Van Ryder Games usually has a free little, like, not free, but maybe a purchase or a free little giveaway that you can't buy about Final Girl. So If I put 2 and 2 together, I would have asked. But I think it's time, Rob. I think we might need to start applying for a press pass or something for Gen Con, because this is, I think, at least once. Just like Comic Con, I've gone once. Maybe I'd go again for Nerd Best Friends, but I think Gen Con's one that we have to at least maybe try to go.
There was a summer episode I was listening to, because we did the Nerdnostalgia episodes during the summer. I was like, oh, let me scrub through this so I remember what we were talking about so I could do like the intro, right? Because we did intros for those. And literally on one of those, it was on my bucket list, one of these days we got to go to Gen Con. And it's like, it's 72,000 people. It fills the convention center. It overflows
not only the convention center. It fills the convention center.
Across the street.
The hotels all are utilized. Their convention centers in each hotel. They fill Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yes, the whole field.
And underneath. And above.
I didn't know about underneath. I just thought they put the plastic floor down over the turf and it was just giant thing.
Multiple levels of Lucas Oil Stadium is used for the bigger companies. You go downstairs and there's a dungeon company. I can't remember the name as well either. They were telling me you went down into the dungeon, which I've been in the bottom of Lucas Oil Stadium. I'm like, what a perfect, it's all cement holding area.
I've actually been down there too. Hilariously from marching band, I was there.
It's hilariously for marching band, but I wasn't there for DCI. I was there for when I was at the University of Toledo. We played halftime of a game, of an Indianapolis Colts game. It's the only like NFL game I've been to, but we didn't really go to it. We were down in the bottom, went up to the top. And then when we were leaving, like they were playing the Saints, so Drew Brees was like warming up right next to me while I'm carrying a ladder back down to the dungeon. We got over 70,000 people, but man, it looks amazing. It looks so good. But on my table,
it's one of those things where it's like the difficulty of it is it happens every year right before the school year starts. And it's one of those things where it's like, you're going to be exhausted. You're going to be 3 days. Like people who go talk about like, I walked 11 miles every day at Gen Con going through this thing. And like, you're going to get sick. Because there's a million people
because you're around all those people. Yeah.
Right? So it's like you have to plan your Gen Con and then you need like 3 days to a week off after that. At least I do.
We ain't got time for that as management. So
right. So it makes it tough, but maybe we can work it out.
We'll figure it out. I have faith in us, best friend. After that conversation, I brought up Final Girl. I started to prime Series 3. I started to look at games that I could play, and I've just started to play a game here or there. And I've actually kept my game table out this whole time because I talked about before moving into this room, I can close the door so the cat doesn't come and meet people. So I just started just closing the door at night and coming in and playing the next time I have a few minutes. So, and then I'll be putting that away to paint. So.
Yeah. So I have to, the miniature painter nerd. So I have to ask, like, are you painting new stuff or are you going back to tried and true things that you already have ready?
I'm only playing the stuff that I already painted, and I've started to paint. I haven't painted any of Series 3, but remember, I could play Series 3 locations with Series 2 and 1 villains and final girls, and that's what I've been doing to learn the schematics of every location, because they get harder and more difficult the more the series progress. So I'm trying some of the harder locations without using the bad guys or the final girls from Series 3 yet until...
Interesting.
And then I can use the little chits instead of the vehicles because I haven't paid those yet either. So there's different ways I can do it without breaking the rule. So I haven't played any Series 3 other than locations.
So back in when we were talking about games a couple months ago, it was the Goblin Argle Bargle. And you had done some different techniques on those goblins to make them like brighter and more colorful. Will you try that technique on your Final Girl miniatures, or do they stay grim, dark, and muted?
I am still going to try what I did for Great Goblin Argle Bargle, but I won't be using the same brighter colors that I did. Like I purposely did the very bright oranges and yellows and reds. In this case, I'm going to do just a black coat of primer, which I've done. It's really windy here this summer, although it's been really lovely this summer. And I think the wind sticking around, it's usually windy in the spring here, but we've had high winds nearly every evening. So priming gets a little difficult if I'm not up early in the morning to do it. So I've done the coat of black, and next I'm just going to do a pure coat of white. I'm not even going to do Zenithal. I'm not going to do Slapshot. I'm just going to paint them white, which is what I did with the goblins. And I think it helped because I don't go through. You let me know there was a step I was missing to help that detail and brightness, which I'm not going to go and buy the paints to do that next step. So I'm going to stick with the speed paints and contrast paints. In order to do that, I'm going to keep the the prime really, really white so that it can pop colors. I'm still going to do the grimier colors. I'm still going to make them super bloody, but I'm hoping the skin tone on the faces don't come out as dark or gray.
I think they absolutely will if you're
yeah.
not doing the slap chop. I think
So
if you get that good, like, I like the slap chop, but it's like for a while when it was like new and it was so easy, it took over like everything. Like, oh my gosh, I could pump so much stuff out with this technique. But now that like I'm looking back on it, I'm like, oh, it's great for particular things, but not everything. Like those speed paints were designed with a white, like a bright undercoat in mind.
Yes. And I'm thinking that through the Marvel Zombies as I'm also just kind of going back, and they're all slap chopped almost, but I purposely only slap chop things with a lot of detail. Right. So I think it's going to help those
catch and pop.
Right. But then like the superheroes that aren't zombies don't need to be dingier. So I need to do just pure white and do the bright colors on those. So I think I'm finding a balance, but Final Girl is going to help me really narrow down, like, is it what I'm thinking that just the white primer is going to help me get that horror grunge look. I'm still going to slap chop it dirty like they've been through the woods and been fighting for their lives. And like, it's still going to be dark, but the colors themselves should pop a little bit more. So that's what I hope. We'll find out.
Yeah. Gosh, there's so many different possibilities. You might be able to use some washes to like darken things down once they're big. And,
which is what I was doing with the slap chop, and it made them darker. So I stopped using the washes. Like, I think I'm just trying to find that balance without needing to buy more paints and do that extra step. Because realistically, it's hard enough for me to do the priming and the contrast paints. The time for that alone is what I have to give. And I am not as interested in being such a detail like you and Maria. That you're so good. Juliana's so good at painting, and you all go these extra steps with these extra bases and layers and technique that I'm not going to do. So,
well, thank you. That's not true. I'm nowhere near as detail oriented or as good a painter as them. I'm just fast. I practice a lot, so I'm fast. But like, I've gotten to that point where I'm like, everything I do is like passable. It's fine, but it gets done.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just turning stuff out. Like, I'll never get to the stuff that they're doing because they'll take their time. They're like, I want it to be perfect. And I'm like, I want it to be done.
Right. I'm like that, but even less steps, fewer steps to get there. I want to play Final Girl 3, black prime, white prime, paint, varnish, play. Like, I'm taking out those extra layer steps.
You know what, though? So, that's a heck of a lot more than some people are doing. And it's definitely doable. Like, you too, listener, could play your games with painted minis.
And it could be simply painted minis as well. So, well, that was Talk Nerdy to Me. So send in your deep thoughts, nerd questions, or Talk Nerdy to Me subjects you'd like us to cover by sliding into our DMs on social media, or send those topics into podcast@nerdbestfriends.com. And now, an MTV production. Let's talk about the state.
My gosh.
Kevin
Allison, Michael Ian Black, Carrie Kennedy, the state. Like, these people.
If you know Lieutenant Dangle, you know the state. Well, so I want to tell you a story first. A little bit about what was happening at the time. TV was popular in the early 90s to mid 90s. And it was popular for our age group. They did their whole, and we've talked about this in the past, they did their whole set of series, whether they were animated or otherwise, that were edgy and different and right in that like Gen X wheelbase of angsty, here we are now, entertain us, like
grungy.
They were really in that pocket of Gen X at that time with Ren and Stimpy and Daria, right? Daria is the absolute anti-hero. She was the epitome of all teenage girls at the time saying meh.
Yeah.
Right. And so the state comes along and their sketches and their show is 100% exactly that. And this is what I remember. I remember watching it all the time and not really talking to anybody that much. Like, I watched In Living Color, but kids at school weren't talking about In Living Color, right?
Right.
They might have quoted one of the characters or something the morning after the show played or whatever, but I don't remember people talking about the state a lot. I thought no one's really watching this. They put it on awkward times, like whatever, but I loved it. And I remember like junior year of high school and we're in jazz band rehearsal.
Yeah.
And we're standing in the back with the trumpet section and we have our good old friend Rusty on the drum set way in the other corner of the room. And our band director, Mr. Garsky, says something like, and then we're all going to end up doing this and we're all going to go to this thing. And both me and Rusty at the same time said, "Me too, Sarge," and then looked at each other. And I went, crap. Rusty looked at me and he pointed at me with his drumstick and we both just start laughing because the night before that rehearsal, was a skit of a bunch of soldiers in the middle of war. And the guy's like, we're all going to go run down this thing. And what is it? Me too, Sarge? Does that include us, Sarge? That's the whole skit.
Yep.
Right? That's when I knew. I don't remember when you and I started talking about it, but at that point started talking about it and found out that everyone was watching it.
Man, everyone was watching it. And it's just one of those things where it's like, it was so, I don't know how to explain it. Like, you don't get that anymore. That was kind of the last bastion of the monoculture. And it really wasn't a monoculture because, like, when we were very young, there were 13 channels on TV. And everybody knew what everybody was watching, that night. It was either Cosby Show night, or it was Dukes of Hazzard night, or it was Growing Pains night, or whatever. Right. And everybody was watching that because that's what was, that was it. You didn't have very many choices. But then we had cable. And so in the 90s, there was 100 channels, not just 13. So it was a little more rare that everybody had that water cooler experience that they talk about. But for teenagers watching MTV at that time, we were all there because it was like, okay, it's late at night. I'm turning on the TV. I'm going to go to MTV. That's like number one on my channels to check. And so we were all watching that thing and could come to school and have that communal experience of like, hey, we all watched this at the same time last night or 2 nights ago. You just don't get that anymore. You have to like do pre-planned coordination and like nobody does that and whatever.
Well, and streaming changed that anyways, right? Because you can watch whatever you want. So last episode we were talking about Wednesday. You haven't seen it at all. I didn't see it right when it premiered. Like, who knows where on that spectrum from when it was released to when you're talking about it with someone, when someone saw it. So
it's a different thing. There is something going on with that where some things are so popular that they can break through that wall of not having that specific time of watching, like Ted Lasso, Wednesday, The Last of Us. Like there's these things where it's like, oh, everybody's talking about them, right? But nobody's watching them at the same time,
right? It's not quite the same thing.
Yeah, it's just So there's some that can break out. There's some breakout hits, but it's just not the way that it was.
So let's talk a little bit about the state. So here's some basics about it. It ran on MTV from 1993 to 95. So it was 4 seasons within 2 years. And that's where I got confused. I remember it was only on for a couple of years, but their seasons were short. They only had 28 episodes in those 4 seasons. So they were, like 8 or so episodes per season that were packed of a half hour's worth of individual skits and sketches. Half of them or part of them would be pre-recorded, and then some of them would be in front of a live studio audience from the onset. So they had a healthy mixture of both.
That's right, because there would be like laugh track and stuff in some of the longer sketches, like in the set piece.
Well, those were actually laughs. With a studio audience instead of a track, right? And then there'd be some that you can tell, especially in the early seasons where it was like that early, these kind of foggy tinted, we had cheaper cameras. Their pre-recorded sketches would be that, and then their studio sketches would be super crisp and clean.
Some of those are really great, and we'll talk about a couple of them later. But the pre-canned ones, like, oh my gosh.
Some of them are hilarious. Amazing. So the show was created by a group of 11 friends from NYU's School of the Arts. They originally performed as a sketch comedy troupe or improv troupe called The New Group before they were picked up by MTV and created a show called The State. So here's what I thought was interesting about this. We were watching it, but nobody really talks about that show anymore. And the funny thing is, so much of comedy since the mid-late 90s is driven by these 11 folks. They're responsible for so many things, but nobody really talks about the state. So I hope this documentary, Long Live the State, I hope it gets picked up and wide released somewhere. I would love to see it and see some of the background that we weren't aware of because we were teenagers at the time, not paying attention to their adult backstories. But the state itself was not a hit. And I went into some research to figure this out because what I thought was right, that this is a cult classic. Mm-hmm. If you know about the state, then you know, right? If I hold up that box of pudding, you know, or you don't. It is not mainstream. You're right. And in fact, it had 0 critical success. I mean, you can find reviews of this show that basically say why and mean comments, but it also makes sense because that's exactly what Gen X is as well, right? I remember my mom saying, this show is stupid. Why do you watch it? And I'm like, this is hilarious. And I still think it's hilarious.
For sure.
But its following was strong enough from the age demographic MTV was going after that they continued to renew season after season and keep it on the air.
And it goes to that thing, like, it didn't make money, right? I'm surprised it had 4 seasons, but I'm also not surprised that they just crammed it into the 2 years to open up the spot for something else, because it obviously didn't make money. It's super hard to find now. It's not streaming anywhere because nobody thinks anybody's going to watch it. It's not on the MTV app. It's not anywhere. But just like you said, like, so then how do all of those folks 10 years later turn around and they're in everything that we see now?
Not even 10 years later. It was within a couple of years of the state ending that they were writing stuff for other movie shows, some indie and some not. Like, they went right into it and influenced comedy from the mid-90s to now. We'll get to that in a second, but I also want to say, so there's actually an alternate reason why it's not streaming anywhere. So I have a DVD set of the complete series, and I went through and rewatched most of it before recording this episode. And I'm glad I did, because there's things about that I forgot that I loved about this show, because when you see the individual sketches, you don't see some of the things that they did in transition between the sketches that I've totally forgot about. But that DVD set's also hard to watch. And the reason why you don't find it streaming, because I think it would be very popular if they did, no one wants to pay the money or do the work, apparently, to get the rights to the music behind those scenes. So when you watch this DVD set, it's canned, fake, badly created alternative music that doesn't quite get the job done. Some of the skits were hard to watch, because I remember, like, there's the pants sketch. Do you remember the pants one?
Remind me.
Michael Ian Black comes in and he's like, he walks to the library and he walks up to a girl. You don't see him. You just see they're like standing at a bookshelf. So you only see them from like chest up. And he tries to pick up this girl and she looks him up and down and goes, "Get away from me," and walks away. And it pans out to someone else sitting and goes like, "Hey, maybe you should try pants." And they look down and he's in his underwear, right? And so the rest of this skit is him going to a store and trying on and not knowing how to try on pants. So he comes out with them on his head and stuffed in his underwear. It's like stupid, right? And then he buys a pair of pants and goes back to the library and hits on the girl. And she looks him up and down. She goes, "Sure, let's go." And then the other guy's there going, "But I'm still alone." And it pans out and, "Maybe you should try your own advice." And he looks down and he's in a Speedo. So that's the skit. But it uses the 90s song Cannonball.
Okay.
No one's paying for the rights to use that music, so it's some cheap, doesn't quite fit, and it doesn't hit the same way as it did.
No,
so none of the music.
Perfect sense, because it was an MTV show, so they had all of the rights.
They had all of that music,
but now they don't. Oh my gosh!
So that's a big reason. Yes, and I think it would make money, but who's going to front the money and do all the work to call all of those artists and do the streaming negotiations that happen now? And like, it would be a lot of work that no one wants to do. So it's unfortunate. Like, it wasn't as enjoyable as a show because I got pulled out of like, oh God, this music doesn't fit with what you're doing.
That is,
and I know better because I watched it.
It's too bad that DVD set way back in the day didn't front that and get it in its original.
By the time they made that complete series set, it was already too late. They needed to get the rights for it, and they didn't. Right? Like, they should have done it then, and no one did. So even the Barry Levon sketch doesn't have Marvin Gaye playing in the background. It's just got some cheesy music behind them, and it's still funny, but it's not quite the same tone. It misses the tone a little bit. I absolutely
get that. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Oh, that is way too bad, because honestly, if somebody could find those with the original music, you could make a TikTok account of just that and put like little clips up.
Yep.
Every day and have a very popular channel.
And you know why we know this is because there's channels on TikTok that have clips of Reno 911 and they resurface. There's the one where you've probably seen it. There, she's given the guy a DUI sobriety test, and turns into a dance routine. That one pops up every 6 months. It gets popular again.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Step, bump, bump. Yes, right? That would happen to these skits from the state because they do actually still speak today. The Barry and Levon one would be a tremendous success on TikTok. It would be, but you can't find it anywhere. And if I took my phone up to my TV to record it, it wouldn't quite be the same because it doesn't have that Marvin Gaye in the background. It's unfortunate, but also I'm really glad I have this series. It's not one that I'm going to pull out a lot, but it helped me remember some things, and I'll get to that in a minute. But let's talk about catchphrases or skits.
Okay.
I think their most famous one is, I want to dip my balls in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
How many sketches, like you went through and you watched a bunch of these seasons. How many times does that come up? Was that a weekly sketch or is that like one or two?
Louis came up maybe 6 times over the 28 episodes.
Okay.
And that's one thing they did really well too, is you watch this one-off skit and it's kind of funny. And Doug, right? I'm out of here. I only remembered the first one, but Doug comes back like 8, 10 times. Yeah.
I only remember the one with Solamente Doug and Uncle Robert and all that stuff.
Who do you think I am, Dad? Bob Dylan? Do you know who Bob Dylan is? No, but I know he died of drugs.
That's right.
Bob
Dylan is alive and well.
Bob Dylan is alive and well. I produced his last 3 albums. Oh, you mean Uncle Robert? Yeah. He didn't die of drugs. And it's that funny. It's that really funny good. Every single time the character Doug comes along and the character Louis. Well, this is what I forgot about the Louis sketch. Because he carries the 2 little ping pong balls and everyone's a party or a dinner gathering. We invited Louis. Oh my gosh. And everyone's excited. And he walks in and everyone's super happy to see him. And no matter what the theme is, he's wearing his bad, khaki pants with a short sleeve
like a flannel,
business shirt.
Right?
No, he's wearing a business shirt with a tie.
Yeah. He looks like an IT guy, right? He's got khakis with
tucked in
the pleats, like the tucked in short sleeve shirt. Yeah.
With a tie, and he walks in and is like, who's got something? What do you have? I have orange juice. I want to dip mine. He holds up his ping pong ball. I want to dip my balls in it. And the whole point of the sketch is eventually he doesn't say that. And it's like, what do you have here? I have an egg salad sandwich. Well, I want to eat that sandwich. And everyone goes, and he goes down to one knee and he's like, you don't want to hear it. And they're like, we don't know what you're going to say. No, we don't know. And then eventually they'll yell, I want to dip my balls in it. And that's the whole point of the sketch, right? They put him in the Last Supper. What do you have there? Baba Ganoush. I want to dip my balls. Right? And they're like, we're going to go hey, Jesus, we're going to go hang out with this Louis guy. Do you want to come with us? And he's like, no, I'm here to tell you I'm going to sacrifice myself for men's sins and blah, blah, blah. But go ahead, go hang out with Louis. And they carry him out on his shoulders and stuff. I mean, they had these characters that just came back over and over. Doug and Louis came back a bunch. Captain Monterey Jack. I had completely forgotten.
I don't remember this one. Remind me.
He's in a school gym and they're sitting in chairs looking like teenagers being forced to listen to a motivational speaker guy, but he just talks about the most random stuff. And at the end of each one, he tries to leave the room and he slips and he falls down and hurt my knee. But it's stupid stuff like, remember to turn your lights off when you leave a room, blah, 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 blah. And it's just Doug's in each one of these too. Turning your lights off is for nerds. And he's like, Captain Monterey Jack is, look at this guy over here with his glasses on. He's a nerd. Nerds don't leave lights on when they leave the room. It's just absurd. And he's got half a dozen sketches of talking nonsense to teenagers.
Oh my goodness.
Of course, you have Barry and Levon.
Barry
and they actually come about 2 or 3 times, but no sketch is as funny as the pudding sketch, which is the first one.
Pudding is absolutely ridiculous. It's so funny to this day. We had the 260. What you see in here is $260.
And $40.
$40
worth of pudding. My favorite part. Now you might ask yourself, Barry and Levon, where did you get $240? That ain't your concern. Don't worry your pretty little head about it. And it's just a pile of pudding that looks like a pile of doop.
I am sure it is a beanbag chair that someone smeared frosting on. Or whipped cream or something. Yeah.
Something. Yeah. I mean, that sketch is so funny. And the other one, they're talking about a futon couch. And the other ones are funny as well, but not as funny.
The other thing that got me was all the little in between. Like you said, there was the pre-recorded ones that they would do. And there was an ongoing commercial, which was was it Crispios or something?
They were Pop cereal. Yeah.
Yeah. It was basically
something
Pop
Crispy
cereal.
Pops or something.
Crispy Pops or something like that. And they did all of these commercials and they're just they're ridiculous. And there were some where they're very inappropriate.
Yeah.
But, my gosh. But it's oh gosh, that's not great. And then it would keep going though, to the point where it's nope, this is really funny again.
Yeah. It's actually funny. Yes.
I would say one of those was it's old fashioned. Is it old fashioned guy or I'm just old fashioned?
Old fashioned guy.
There's probably 10 of them. Mm-hmm. Sprinkled throughout. They're little 15-second things. Yeah. And they shot them all in
at
one
the same time.
take,
yes.
But they sprinkled them out and it's Kevin Allison in a light colored suit. He's out there in the wilderness with a lake behind him and he's just whittling on a piece of wood and they all start with, call me just an old fashioned guy. But I think, and then it's like some hilarious thing. And the one that like sticks with me is like, call me an old fashioned guy, but I think there's only one God. His name is Uglamak, and he lives at the bottom of this lake.
Oh my God, that's so good. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And there's a whole series of those all throughout all 4 seasons.
And there was a bunch of them, and there were a bunch of the commercials that they would put in, which was similar to something Saturday Night Live was doing. There'd be like the fake commercials for things that they go in. But man,
my favorite fake commercial one was, it starts off with Carrie Kinney. And shout out to her, by the way, being the only female in this troupe. It meant 2 things. One, she's the only female in some of these skits that go way beyond, and she does a great job in holding her own. She eventually plays Trudy Weigel in Reno 911, and she actually, talk about a renaissance, she's on a show right now that's getting lots of critical acclaim with a bunch of very famous people. One of the shows in season 2 starts with her holding an iron in front of an ironing board, and she's got the little, it looks like Downy, and it's got a little teddy bear just like Downy Bear, and she's like, as a mother, I have to do my laundry in short periods of time for my kids, and I always turn to blah, blah, blah. And the little bear starts talking, yeah, when you use blah, blah, and she starts screaming bloody murder and beating the teddy bear with her iron,
because you remember Snuggles the bear in those commercials?
That's what it's making fun of.
Well, when you use our blah, blah,
it's just ridiculous. So about those transitions between sketches, and here's the part that I forgot, that they will connect the 2 sketches together with a transition scene. So let's think about the first time you see the Crispy Pops commercial. The commercial goes on, and then there's 2 guys walking, and Thomas Lennon, Lieutenant Dangle, he comes by on a skateboard with the box of the cereal, and he goes between them and goes, excuse me, guys, and he keeps going, and then it goes into the next sketch. So they do these transition moments between the characters.
Yeah. I said Kevin Allison earlier. I meant Thomas
you meant
Lennon.
Thomas Lennon. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, Lieutenant Dangle. Yeah. But they do that a lot all throughout the series. That's how they connect these things. At one point, they use a bagel sandwich and a glass of milk with googly eyes, and they just filmed some scenes of the bagel sandwich opening and closing its mouth, and then they narrated it. You might have thought that sketch was funny, or that sketch wasn't for everybody. So if that, you found something to not laugh about that, we promise the next sketch will be better, and it transitions into the next one.
Interesting. Very trying to get that live feel of your comedy troupe, of your improv group or whatever.
Right.
I mean, and that's one of those things, improv and these shows were so funny, and they were putting them out there. I think we both know a lot of people our age or maybe a little younger who were in college, I was in improv comedy. My friend group was our improv comedy group. That was a college thing to do in the late 90s.
There's still many that exist everywhere, but it's not as widely popular as it was at the time in the 90s.
It's not like it was then, where you could be like, I want to be in an improv comedy group in college because I'm going to make it and be a star someday. Right. Now it's oh no, you do that for fun, but they're not making shows like that.
Right. Well, and it's that's what the cool kids did when we were in high school. The cool group were in local improv sketch groups, right? And that's what they all did, was go to these shows. That was the cool thing to do at the time. And this really falls in line. But the humor from this show is just top notch. And what I love about it even more now, and recognizing now, understanding that they had zero critical success, and it was really just fans like us who continued that show for the seasons it did, and continue to throw our voice behind what we support money-wise with things like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Reno 911, Wet Hot American Summer, all these things. It's still that brand of humor that we keep buying because it's funny. They were self-deprecating. Some of their more popular sketches was the entire cast just sitting there, and it was always Michael Ian Black going, "Hi, everybody, we're the State. Right now, we have a contest where you can have dinner with all 11 members of the state." And they're always sitting back there looking like bums, or someone's passed out with a bottle of alcohol. And then they're self-deprecating. One, they were reading critics' comments in one of these and just laughing at them.
But we have that now, right? Seeing celebrities read Twitter comments is
mean tweets.
A thing. Mean tweets, right? And that's, guess what? We were doing that 30 years ago.
Yes. And so they have those kinds of skits. The last one I saw that really hit me is Michael Ian. They're all sitting back there, and Michael Ian Black has a television that's rolled out when we were in high school.
Yep.
And he pauses. He's like, "This is MTV's Unplugged," because they even make fun of MTV. Because they're on MTV. So they're so meta that they're making fun of the station that they're on, which you don't see shows do. And so he pauses it, and then you see the crowd, and he goes, "The state is not popular enough to get tickets to Unplugged, even though it's filmed in this same studio. And like, he's pointing to people, who knows if it's real or not. Now, this a-hole told us that we weren't popular enough. And this person, Sally, I'm not going to say her name. Her name is Sally. She did like, right? Like, they're just poking fun at the fact that they're not popular. And they actually have some cameos from well-known actors at the time. And I'm going to blank on who, because I didn't take notes on that, obviously. But one of them is like David Duchovny or someone like that.
Really?
Who's looking at postcards. He goes, oh, that's Ren and Stimpy, Daria, Beavis and Butthead. He's looking at fan mail. Then he pulls one out and he goes, fan mail for the state. And he like jumps up and jumps over the cubicle that he's in. And I got one for the state, everybody. And runs out of the screen. Like, self-deprecating is also a very Gen X thing. And so to see them like hit the nail on the head while the show was on it's just so good.
I'm looking through, like, as you kind of scroll down towards the bottom of IMDb, you do start seeing some of those guest stars that were in there, like Gilbert Gottfried, Jon Stewart, Alice Cooper.
Yes.
People hanging around, they jump in. Michael Ian Black is not only like, he started with that self-deprecation, but like he continues it even in like his more dramatic roles.
Yes.
He'll just be this like greasy, weaselly, ugly nerd. Like, I don't know the last time I saw Michael Ian Black in something where he didn't just look awful or be awful. Like, he's getting a lot of roles, but nowhere in those roles is he like a cool, suave dude with good hair. Like, he's always just looks awful and just the worst.
He knows his brand. And he wears it well and has turned that and parlayed that into 100 different characters in well-known films and television shows.
His character on Always Sunny in Philadelphia is awful. Like, you cringe every time he shows up.
Yes. And he does it well. He plays that same character all throughout the state. It is so good. He also, Wet Hot American Summer. Let's talk about that first. I think we've talked about it on the show before. What an iconic film. Honestly, in comedy, the cast list of that film, I mean, you have Janine Garofalo, you have the dude from Frasier, you have Paul Rudd, why am I going to blank?
Bradley Cooper?
Cooper, in his first role in a movie, plays a same-sex lover for Michael Ian Black. This movie is about a camp in the '80s and all the teenage interrelationships. Paul Rudd plays this super a-hole of a guy who doesn't want to do anything and thinks he's so cool. And Ken Marino plays that typical dude who's like so sexually charged, then you find out he's a virgin. Like, I mean, nearly every character, no, I think all 11 characters from the state have a hand in Wet Hot American Summer.
Somewhere.
Even if they're not on camera. What's her name? Elizabeth Banks is in this movie as a young woman. Like, there's just so many people in this movie, and it is so good. If you listeners, if you have not seen Wet Hot American Summer and this is your brand of comedy, it is so good. And they have a Netflix special called 10 Years Later, which is a joke from the movie. They're all sitting back one of the camp scenes in the movie going, let's meet 10 years from now and see where we're all at and see how our lives are. And the joke in that scene is like, well, what time should we meet? What about 10 o'clock? That's not too early, not too late. Oh no, I have something at 10. Could we make it like 3 o'clock? Oh no, 3 is going to be too late for me. Like, it's the running joke in the movie. And then they come back the Netflix shows more than 10 years later, but they act as if it's 10 years later.
It's 10 years later. And it could be any time because Paul Rudd looks the same.
Yeah. Paul Rudd is exactly the same. Yeah. He never ages.
H. John Benjamin, who does the voiceover of the can of vegetables, my favorite voiceover actor of all time. Does the can of vegetables with that voice show up in the 10 years later?
Yes.
Okay, I'm in.
Maybe a relative. It might be a relative of the can. Like, that was his uncle. Yeah. But there is another running joke about that too. Yes. Yeah. The 10 years later is funny because they're all like 20, 25 years older than they were. And they're trying to play like their mid to late 20s instead of in their 40s. But
they're still wearing like the tiny t-shirts and like short shorts. And of course they are.
Other things that have been influenced by members of the state. You have Night of the Museum, and other comedy shows like Balls of Fury were written by members of the state.
No kidding. Night at the Museum's like a huge mainstream movie.
Yes.
Wow.
Of course, we've mentioned before, Reno 911 stars 3 of the troupe, and also some folks behind the scenes producing and writing episodes of Reno 911.
That makes sense. That's the one I always think of as like the predecessor because it's got those folks in it, and it's just so good. What's
great about the Reno 911 movie is that all members of the state make a cameo in the tattoo scenes. So all 11 members of the state are featured in Reno 911 movie, which is really great to see. Drop Dead Gorgeous was written by partially Michael Patrick Jan, who has written a lot. He's done a lot more behind the scenes since the state than in front of the camera. But Drop Dead Gorgeous is a spoof documentary about a middle of America beauty pageant. We've talked about this before. I think it was on my list of like top movies of all time.
Okay.
It was on a top list
Probably.
at some point. But it's Brooke Shields and a young Kirsten Dunst and Allison Janney and a lot of really famous actors with this beauty pageant that turns deadly, and all the contestants are being suddenly murdered, and Kristen Dunst is trying to survive through this thing. And it's a dark comedy, but it's not about the murders. It's about this mystery about who's killing them, and spoiler, it ends up being Kirstie Alley trying to rig it so her daughter will win, who is what's her name from Wild Things with Neve Campbell?
Denise Richards.
Denise Richards plays Kirstie Allen's daughter. And then you have Brittany Murphy is in this, a young Amy Adams.
Really?
Plays one of the pageant contestants. Like, it's really good, and it's this same area of comedy, and I highly recommend Drop Dead Gorgeous. Find it. It is so good. I used to have it on VHS, and it was one that I would rewatch. Wet Hot American Summer, I would rewatch, and if they could figure out the music for the state, it would be playing a lot more commonly.
I really wish they would. That sounds great. I think it's really cool that you have that DVD set. I wish I had a way to refresh before the show that well, but it does suck that everything you're watching is like just a twinge of disappointment. Like, why does this music suck? Yeah.
It really poorly affects some of the sketches, unfortunately, and some of them you don't recognize. You don't notice that it's happening, and then there's some that are musically driven that you know it's happening. But yeah, we haven't talked about Porcupine Racetrack, which is like the pinnacle.
I think Porcupine Racetrack is the greatest thing that ever came out of the state. It's so amazing. And it's one of those things where it's like, there was budget, there were takes, there's choreography. They brought people in who could sing and dance so that they could do this dumb thing. And it's like, it's a song that just has stuck in my head like any other 90s song that I know all the words to. I've got it there, and it's just so funny. And it's such a like upbeat kind of like fun song. I was singing it when my son was little. Like, Andrew knows all the words to Porcupine Racetrack because he thinks it's a kid's song that I sang to him when he was a little baby.
It tells a story.
It tells a story about a cute little porcupine.
And
it
about
mispronounces porcupine.
Porcupine. You have the story of how to bet for the racetrack, what the upper class folk do for Porcupine Racetrack, the priest who's going against God and gambling to try to save the orphanage. There is a story across this whole thing. It's brilliantly done.
It's so good.
Then
that's an original, so when you do look that one up on YouTube, you get it as is.
You'll be able to hear the actual music.
There's also remakes. Like, I watched one the other day. I was like, oh, wow, this is a really good copy over. And then I realized, no, it's a shot-for-shot remake that some college did.
Yeah.
Perfectly.
And nailed it. I've seen that one, too. They did a good job. Some of the other running sketches you wouldn't see. One of my favorite is the Jew, the Italian, and the redhead gay.
Yes.
Like, they had a theme
Another
song.
One that was like, so like iconic.
Yes.
I'm impressed that you were able to say that title without singing that title.
It was really hard to. In my brain, I'm like, I'm going to have to not do it. Hey, we need money for the rent. I spent it all on pasta. I'm going to make a tomato sauce. And
I spent all mine on bagels. Like, it's so
I'd help you, but I'm picking out patterns for our new curtains. Like, it's so good. It is so good. I can't talk enough about the state.
That's a great one, too, because it's just such a slap in the face to situation comedies of the time. It's like, this might as well be all of them. See how stupid this is? It might as well just be everything else on every other channel.
And most of it is still funny 30 years later.
Yeah.
So iconic, so funny. I want to say, if for some reason, luck upon luck, someone from the state hears this or sees that we did this episode, I want to say thank you. I think for us, for our friendship, quoting these things.
Yeah.
For 30 years, bonding about it when we were in high school. We were the demographic that were being hit with this, and we still love it. I will forever watch shows and movies that you all put on, and I will laugh at this kind of humor for the rest of my life. And I just hope that for our younger listeners who did not grow up with this can learn to appreciate this type of humor as well.
Good luck going to find it, but that almost makes it cooler that you don't have it just readily available at your fingertips. You kind of have to dig for it.
How Gen X is that? It's forgotten. It's hidden. It doesn't get the limelight.
It's like Mystery Science Theater 3000. People were like
Such a-
passing around physical VHS tapes was the only way that you could see it.
A bunch of sketches were familiar to me. I think the show really hit its stride season 2 and season 3. It was like really rolling. I remember like my first trip to New York in college was with the USC band, and I'd never been there before. And there was a Viacom store, and I had no idea Viacom owned the state at this point. The state was canceled. It was gone. And in the clearance section in this Viacom store was a VHS tape called Skits and Stickers, which you can still find VHS copies on eBay. And I would watch the heck out of that because it was just a series of mostly season 2 and season 3 of their most popular sketches. So just wanted to tell that story real quick because I had that forever on VHS and watched that a lot. And that did have the original music.
That's the thing to have.
Yeah.
You don't still have it, do you?
The VHS, I actually probably still do somewhere buried in my garage. If I find it, I'll let you know.
We got to get that transferred over. Get it digital. We'd be heroes. Heroes, Analese.
Or we get sued for copyright. So, that could go either way.
If you know what? For like a good couple years, the NBF feed could just be little clips from the state, like one a day. Everybody would think we're the state podcast, which would be an upgrade from now where everyone thinks we're the Honey Heist podcast.
Apparently, according to algorithms, we are the number 3 podcast about Honey Heist that we talked about once.
No, that sucks so bad.
Well, the only people doing more are the people that created it. So,
oh my gosh.
We're number 1 non-Honey Heist creators.
Oh, that's so funny.
Oh, that's a good pool. That is a state type humor right there. We're number 3. We're back at our favorite segment of the day. What's the nerdiest thing you did this week?
All right. The nerdiest thing I got done this week was like a Kickstarter was delivered. But I don't think it was a Kickstarter. I think it was a Game Found. Whatever. They're all kind of the same thing. But I remember years ago seeing this company, Dungeons and Lasers, which I think I've mentioned.
You talk about a lot, yeah.
They did, because their Kickstarters are huge. They are the ones where it's like, oh, I ordered like the Tarrasque, but it came with like 18 other boxes of stuff. Like the whole thing for our D&D game in Morsane was all a Dungeons and Lasers Kickstarter. So they did this really interesting thing where they said, we're going to deliver pre-painted terrain sets. Right. And so they made imagine the dungeon floors and the cave walls and whatever on sprues to cut out and glue together like a model. But then they ran those sprues under a conveyor, like in a conveyor belt. And over that conveyor belt, it literally looked like an industrial inkjet printer where it's got the nozzles and was just spraying paint going back and forth, and spraying on it. Is that going to work? That seems crazy. And then flip it over and on the other side, dude, all this kind of stuff. I was like, this seems just too interesting to miss out on. So I remember I was like, well, let's see what we can do. I'll get the caves and I'll get the demon pit and I'll get the goblin grotto and all this kind of stuff. Well, it arrived, and then I forgot about it because that's how those things work. It's like, oh yeah, maybe someday I'll have this cool terrain. And then, we've talked about it before, I don't play D&D in person anymore. I'm not building dungeons. That's just not I wasn't waiting on bated breath. Oh man, if only I had that spider layer, this would be I forgot about it. And then it arrived. And in Dungeons and Lasers fashion, this gigantic box full of extras and all kinds of stuff. There's a million more models to paint, but danged if this stuff is not just absolutely incredible. I got the box here next to it, and it comes in a kit, a model kit, where it's gonna look like that, all painted.
Oh my gosh.
And then, sure enough, just shrink wrapped on sprues is fully, it's not really focusing.
No, I can see the detail in it. Yeah.
Fully painted pieces.
I mean, Rob's holding up something that looks like a stone ground, and there's little skulls that have been embedded in it, and you can see bones and stuff, and you can see different colors of red that are popping out. That probably
it's little tiny ruins, and the detail's insane.
It's shadowy. It's detailed. You can different paint tones on the bones, and it's wow.
This one's super cool.
And that was done by a machine.
And it's just, it was done as if on a paper printer, but it's plastic sprues. Is
my
that
gosh!
crazy?
Now this
And
is
it's
the
not
spider
just
one.
like
You can see like spider webs, and you can see there's depth to it. Yeah, it's like
it's
3D.
3D. Like it's not just like a picture printed on a piece of plastic. It's like it's bubbly and thick. Like what? The future is now.
Wow.
So yeah, Dungeons and Lasers pre-painted terrain sets. I'm like, I got it thinking like, well, let's see where it goes. Cause when you back it, it's still in the production phase, right? So there's a lot of promises of like, look at this new technology. It's going to be great. It's like, well, let's see how it is. Knocked it out of the park. 10 out of 10. It's better than I expected it to be.
That is so cool.
So good.
So some of it's pre-painted and some of it you'll have to paint? Like they sent some extras that you have to paint?
Yes, they did throw in some extras that I would have to paint. I probably will never, ever even get to those boxes because there's so much left to do. And they're all like extras. But now I'm like really, I've kind of like revamped into my idea of like, I got to get some D&D games going. Like, look how cool this is. I can make this is a good 4 to 6 hour night of D&D right here with each one of these cool terrain sets.
It's time.
Yeah.
It's time. I mean, speaking of
maybe
D&D,
January.
Yeah, or winter break. There you go.
Yeah. All right, Analese, what's the nerdiest thing you did this week?
Speaking of D&D, y'all keep bugging me about being a DM, which I've never done before, but I was really honing in on the conversation we had on and off the podcast about the new D&D. What continued to ring in my head after that was you and Andrew talking about how the new book, the updated book, really actually tells you how to be a DM, really tells you step by step what your role is, how you help the game go along, instead of just like, here's adventures and go do it.
Right.
So I did it. You got a text message about it, but I finally pulled the trigger and bought the DM's guide of the new D&D. And I've read through most of the introduction. I just bought it yesterday. So
nice.
Read through the introduction while I was also watching some pieces of the state. So yeah,
I'm so happy for you. Are you finding it good? Like you read that introduction? Are you like, oh yeah, I see. I can get into this. Not yet.
Yes. Yeah. I think if it hadn't been written the way it was written, I think y'all are right. I think I'd look at the past DM's guide. If it didn't start out with this basic explanation, which I see you and Andrew and has anyone else DM'd for me? I think it's just been you and Andrew.
No, Michael did because we played.
Oh, that's right. He DM'd a game for us on a
band.
Saturday. Yeah. So the three of you have modeled what this looks like for me. It's all I know, right? But this really lays out like your role and your purpose and the how. And it's really helpful to me understanding the game a little bit more. And it really is introducing it in a really great way for someone who's maybe never played D&D. And then the gentleman that owns my friendly local game store, so a shout out to Sword and Board again.
Mm-hmm.
He walked, oh, you're the principal. And I said, yes, that's me. And he goes, yeah, I thought I've seen you on stage. I'm like, I'm sorry. And he goes, no, we're coming to events because my son's going to be a freshman next year. And And so we're talking. And he told me on Tuesday night.
Now.
Well, yeah, I mean, right? He's like, but you've been in here before. I'm like, yeah, I pop in every once in a while. I believe in supporting my friendly local game stores and, often need new brushes, new paints for the minis and the board games that I play. And I keep eyeing a couple of your board games there, but like I have a rule that I have to play what's on my shelf first. And he laughs and knows I know that life and this, that, and the other. He also let me know they have like one-shot games every Tuesday of D&D. Like if I ever wanted to come and practice being a DM or whatever, because I was talking for a while. And I'll say something they do really cool, and I don't know if this is common for all game stores, but he gives out a free set of dice to people who buy the player's handbook, the DM's guide, or the monster manual. And I knew that because
that's cool.
The person before me, he's like, I'm buying this for my boyfriend. He wants to get into this. Is this a good one to buy? And they're like, yeah. And actually, if you go to that shelf there, it's a Chess X set of a D&D set. They're like, you can pick a free one from that shelf right there for buying this guide. And I got a mystery loot bag instead. I'm like, I have plenty of sets. I don't need a set of dice. And they're like, well, why don't you grab one of those mystery loots? And I got to show this to you, actually.
What happens in a mystery loot bag?
I got a big, hunky, Halloween-themed D20. The Nat 20 is a pumpkin face. Let me see if I can find it.
Nice, okay. It's all orange and green.
Yeah, it's all orange and green, and the 20 is a jack-o'-lantern face.
Very
so I
cool.
got one of these chunky things in the loot, and then I've bought some of these loot sets before. So I had a metal D6,
okay,
and I have a little metal D8. But now I have the D20, and the loot bag also had a D10 little metal one. I love the feel of these metal ones. So now all I need is a metal 4 and a metal 12, and I'll have a whole set of. It's mismatched; they're not all the same, but I love it.
It's all right.
So that's what I did this week.
Very cool. I
Now I'm gonna
got
read
the
the damn
honor of teaching a young man in front of me in line a little math lesson the last time I was at the comic book store, because very similar.
Nice.
If you play in the Dungeons and Dragons campaigns or the Dungeons and Dragons games at the store, you get 15% off Dungeons and Dragons merchandise. So there was a little kid in front of me, probably 10, and he's like, how much is this book? If I get the 50% off, how much is the book? And the person was super busy. This poor lady behind the counter was like juggling Pokemon cards and Magic the Gathering this. And I'm like, oh no, not that pink. Can I just come around and find it for you? All this stuff. She was super busy. And so I was able to teach this guy. I was like, oh, well, how much is the book? And he's like, $49.99. I was like, okay, so it's $50. Do you know what 10% of $50 would be? And he's like, well, I'm not sure. I was like, well, if it was, think about 100. If it was $100, 10% would be $10. So it's half of that is $50. So 10% would be, and he kind of got there like $5. I was like, all right, so if 10% is $5, 10% is half again as much as that was half of $5. 50 is 5. So we did this whole thing in line. He's like, okay, so it's $7.50 off. And I'm like, yes. So what would that make it? I did this thing. Just had this nice little conversation with a D&D 10-year-old D&D nerd to like let this poor lady get her stuff under control.
Using your Common Core math. What a teacher. What an elementary teacher.
For sure. Next week, your nerd best friends are throwing it back to bell bottoms, disco balls, and Saturday morning cartoons. Join us as we nerd watch the 70s, digging into the TV shows, movies, music, and pop culture moments that shaped a whole nerd generation. From Fonzie's to space operas and shag carpet aesthetics, we're diving deep into the decade that defined cool for Gen X. Before you go, hit that follow or subscribe button. Drop us a 5-star rating if you're feeling the nerd love. Find us on social at Nerd Best Friends or email us at podcast@nerdbestfriends.com. Help us grow the nerd herd and keep the geeky goodness rolling.
What a fun time going back in memory lane and rewatching The State and talking to you about it.
Oh, so much fun. So much fun to think about these things and just goof like we have been for 30 years with all of this stuff. Like, I swear to God, Analese, when you pulled up that box of pudding at the beginning of the thing, I thought I was going to pee my pants.
That's the epitome of got 'em, and that's why we live to be best friends, to make the other crack up and do push-ups.
Oh my gosh. In between, before next week, listeners, I wish you the greatest thing I can, which is to cook and chill.
That's what I do every night, baby. I cook and I chill. We'll see you next week, nerds. Right before I came to log in, I'm like, do we have any pudding? And she's like, you want me to make pudding? I'm like, no. Do you have a box of pudding? She's like, yeah, it's in the pantry.
I just need the box.
She's like, what is it for? And I'm like, I'm going to make Rob laugh a lot. It's from The State. And she goes, oh.
That was an excellent read by me.
You did amazing.
I was like, I kept waiting. I'm like, I'm going to stumble. I'm going to make a mistake. And I didn't.
Season 5 perfection. Excellent.
We're really good podcasters, Analese.